I wore out the motor in my Flyzone Playmate, so I decided to change the motor, and I'm going to do an upgrade. First, take the fuselage apart. I already started this one. Grab it at the back here gently, but firmly, and pull. You can get it started. Sometimes you have to use a razor blade very carefully in the back. It's just double-sided tape. And I'm being very careful not to go too deep. Right up the line. Parkzone gearbox for a Sukhoi, PKZ 3516, that's the motor for the Sukhoi. And you will notice that this motor is much larger. At this point, I'm not sure if this is going to be a problem or not. Obviously, it's going to draw more current, and my plan is to put it in and see what happens. Okay, before I mount this in here, and give it a test, because I'm not sure about the wire directions. I'm just going to cut off about 1/4 inch off the nose. Because the motor is so much heavier, the center of gravity is off. So the normal battery position would be up here. I was keeping it right about there, a little bit back from the front, about 1/4 inch or so. But now I found that it's, of course, way nose heavy because all that, obviously the motor weighs twice as much. So now the center of gravity needs to be switched by moving the battery back. But if you look inside, that little thing you can see in there, the little cylinder is actually the motor for one of the servos. So just sticking the battery in this way, extending the wires and sticking it in this way, probably isn't a good idea because there's really not a lot of room. So what I'm going to do is just put it on the outside of the fuselage for now until I get it exactly where I like it. And so far I found that right between the wheels, if you look at the battery, not the black section of the battery, but this part of the sail, if you center that right there between the wheels, and I just used a piece of tape temporarily, right now that seems to be the best place for it. But now that I've made the changes to the orientation of the motor and plus trying the different propeller, I want to recheck everything, but I think that's going to be the right place for it. Changing the motor, well, it's pretty amazing, to be perfectly honest. I know, you would expect someone to say something else after they've gone to all the trouble to do it, but it really is pretty amazing, the difference. I was flying at really most of the time about 1/2 to 3/4 throttle before, and now at 1/4 throttle this thing is actually faster. If you're new to RC airplanes, I wouldn't recommend trying this mod until at least wait until you're comfortable flying the plane stock, because there are some definite differences in the way this thing is going to fly after you make this modification. The biggest change that you're going to find is when you cut the throttle, it's like flying a large gas plane. You're coming in and you say you lose the engine, you're doing a dead stick landing. All of a sudden, you have to pull back on that elevator, and the whole time as you're steering, you have to keep it back, and on some planes, or else you're going to just descend really fast, and that's what this will do now. You're going to come in and you're going to come in a descent about like that. So fairly steep descent for for a landing, for a soft landing. So you are going to have to pull back on that stick and use some up elevator. Also, I notice when I'm banking, if you do a really sharp turn, you have to use a little bit of up elevator in the turn, where before you don't have to do that with this plane. You could just gently turn and not even touch the elevator. Don't just jump in and try this, because you probably are going to be disappointed that you're not able to fly the plane as well, unless you've had a little bit of experience flying larger planes, because that's how this is going to react. I didn't get any video of the test flight, and that's mainly because I don't have a hat cam. And I'm working on actually a system right now to hold the camera, so I can aim the camera while I'm flying, and I will be able to get some video. But again, don't try this at home. And if you do, hopefully you know what you're doing first. Do a little bit of research on center of gravity. If you're new to RC planes, and be sure that you're already really good at flying the stock plane before you attempt to make any changes. And only do it then if you feel like you want to, push the envelope a little bit more and make it a little bit faster, a little bit more challenging to fly, and a little bit more fun. Thanks for watching. Take it easy. It doesn't go, straight down. Don't get me wrong. If you just use your elevator and rudder, that's the third time I said that.